Let me ask you something, and I want you to answer honestly. Have you ever eaten what you know is a healthy meal, and then an hour later, you still feel tired, unsatisfied, or like you were already thinking about food again? And maybe you wondered, why do I feel like something's missing? That moment right there, that's what this video is about. Not because you did anything wrong, but because that feeling usually means your body didn't get what it actually needed. Here's something I've noticed over and over again. Many people who truly believe they're eating healthy are accidentally undernourishing their body. Not under eating, under nourishing. And when that happens, the body doesn't rebel, it protects. It slows things down. It increases cravings. It holds on. Not because you're weak, but because your body is trying to keep you safe. Before we go any further, I want to introduce myself, especially if this is your first time on my channel. I'm Rebecca, a professional health coach, a wife, a mother of 7, and a woman who has lived with multiple sclerosis for over 20 years. I share that because living in a body that requires listening changes how you approach health. I was diagnosed very young, in my early 20s, only 17 when I had my first symptoms. I was excited for life. I had the opportunity to start college early, and I was working and so thrilled, and started having these odd symptoms, feeling like a pain in my rib cage, almost like I was being squeezed with no cause. And a crazy thing that really caused concern was my vision doubled. Everything doubled. And at first I could focus and kind of bring the two together if I really tried. But it kept separating until I reached a point that I had 2 of everything for several months and was initially diagnosed with myasthenia gravis. And sometime later in my 20s, after I'd had my first child, as MS does after having a baby, it flared and I was having more symptoms and went back to the same neurologist that had originally diagnosed me with myasthenia, who said, it might be something else, and referred me to an MS specialist. And at the time, I didn't really know much about it, but after lots of testing, as you know it goes if you've experienced this, MRIs and the blood work, you can't really detect MS with blood work, but it's one of the many, loopholes you jump through while trying to figure things out. And was eventually, we found, diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and it started my journey. I had to learn how to support my body in ways that were sustainable because I was in a downward spiral and my symptoms were getting worse. And I was following the typical path of medication and things of that nature, and told, based on where I had the lesions and the scarring on my spine and in my brain, that I should plan for complete disability within 10 years. Now that would have been, at this point, about 15 years ago. So I am holding strong and doing well. And over time, I have seen that supporting my body, not extremes, not punishment, but actually working with my body, shifted how I see food, not as something to control, but something to cooperate with. And that perspective is what I want to share with you today. By the end of this video, I want you to understand why healthy eating sometimes leaves you feeling stuck and what your body is actually asking for instead. Not a diet necessarily, not rules, just clarity. Most people I talk to don't say, I don't care about my health. Like, that's not a typical thing that people are feeling or expressing. They say things like, I'm eating pretty healthy, but I still don't feel great. Or, I want to change, but I'm exhausted by diets. I've tried everything. Or, I don't trust myself around food. That's a common issue that people have. And underneath all of this is something really honest. The real thing they're saying is, I want to feel better, but I don't want to hate myself to get there. And that matters. Wanting change does not mean you don't love yourself. Very often, it means you do. Here's the framework that ties everything together. Most of us were taught that health comes from control, tracking, cutting, restricting, being good. Control feels productive. It feels responsible. But the body doesn't respond best to control. It responds to care. Care is responsive. Care is curious. Care adapts. Control tightens. Care listens. And when the body feels controlled instead of cared for, communication breaks down. This is where people get confused. They think, if I'm not seeing results, I need to tighten things up. Get to the gym more, cut the calories. But when the body senses ongoing restriction or lack of nourishment, it adapts. Slower metabolism, it isn't failure. Cravings aren't weakness. Fatigue isn't laziness. They're signals. Your body isn't fighting you. It's responding to the environment it's given. Today, healthy often means low calorie, low fat, low carb, sugar-free, processed foods but with green labels. A plate can look healthy and still leave the body unsatisfied. That's when people say, I ate, but I still want something. That's not a lack of discipline. That's unmet nourishment. Think of color. It isn't a trend. I have a whole series on it. You should check it out. It's information. Different colors tell your body different things. You're safe. You're supported. You don't need to conserve. When meals become repetitive or overly controlled, your body doesn't judge you. It just works harder. Adding variety is one of the gentlest ways to rebuild communication. Not perfection, just information. I want to say this clearly. You are allowed to want change and love yourself at the same time. Those are not opposites. Lasting change almost never comes from punishment. It comes from respect. Health isn't something you earn after being good enough. It's something you practice because you matter. Living with MS taught me something unexpected. My body wasn't asking me to control it harder. It was asking me to listen more carefully. The more I stopped fighting my body, the more I started to connect, and the less resilient my body became to what I was trying to do. That doesn't mean my path is your path, but it does mean that your body has the same wisdom that mine does. And when you can check in with that, it will help you find your path and what direction you need to go. If you're open to experimenting, not committing, just noticing, here's something gentle to try. For the next few days, add one colorful food. Natural color, of course. Eat it slowly. Notice how your body responds. No tracking, no fixing, no judgment. Awareness comes before trust. Trust comes before change. A lot of people worry, if I stop controlling my food, I'll lose control. But care and control are not the same thing. Control tightens, care responds. Your body doesn't need pressure, it needs partnership. When the body starts feeling supported, things shift quietly. Energy stabilizes. Cravings soften. Foods feel less emotional. Not overnight and not perfectly, but gently. And gentle change lasts. In the next videos, I'm going to walk you through ways to eat when your body is feeling inflamed, without dieting or extremes. And after that, how to recognize what your body is actually asking for. If this conversation felt like a relief, you don't have to figure the rest out alone. I'm really glad you're here. I'll see you in the next video.